Who is the fastest self-made billionaire ever? Did you know it took Warren Buffett 55 years to join the Billionaires Club while Jay Walker literally did it in less than a year? He launched Priceline.com during the dot-com bubble, and his net worth instantly jumped from zero to billions. However, that wasn't sustainable because when the bubble burst, his net worth crashed, and Buffett is still on the top of the list, and he doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. The game of money isn't easy. It's tough, competitive, and ruthless. And if you don't know the rules, you're doomed to fail. The problem with most people is that they might work hard their entire lives, but end up poor at the end of the journey because they don't know how the game works. To have a better understanding of this game, you must master a few rules that we're going to talk about in this video. Number 1. Money does grow on trees. Yep, we've all been taught the opposite of this phrase, but the reality is that if you don't operate from this perspective, you'll forever be poor. You can't trade your time for money your entire life. That's why you need to plant trees that will earn you money when you're not there. It's not as easy as it sounds. Do you know how difficult it is to plant a tree? First, you need to plant the seed, but the seed's useless if it's not planted in nutrient-rich soil. The tree isn't going to grow by itself. You need to water it, take care of it, and it's definitely not going to grow overnight. Some trees literally grow for 10, 20, or even 30+ years. But once it grows up, it'll keep producing fruits with minimum effort. The same goes to assets. Once you build up a business or save up enough to make a good investment, it keeps generating income, even if you're not there. Because at some point, you might get old, sick, and you won't be able to sustain your job. So even if you're making $500 an hour, you could get back to poor instantly if you haven't planted enough trees in your garden. Number 2. There's no limit to how much you can spend. When you're living paycheck to paycheck and on an extremely tight budget, you think, if I was making even slightly more than I do now, I'll start investing. But what happens usually is that you start spending more the moment you have some extra cash. If you don't budget and discipline yourself to stick to a certain budget, you won't be able to save money to invest even if you make $100,000 a month. There are infinite ways you can spend that $100,000. So instead of constantly pushing that investing line higher and higher, discipline yourself to stick to a smaller budget. If Elon Musk could survive on $1 a day in the United States, you'll definitely survive with a few $100s. Of course, you should enjoy the money you earned with your hard work, travel, or do whatever you desire. But stick to a budget that's lower than your income because you have to acquire assets. Number 3. Money is a lifelong game. When you start investing, you just think automatically that when I hit this certain number, I won't need to stick to a specific budget and I'll finally retire and enjoy the fruits of my hard work. But later, you realize that it's not enough and you have to make more. In fact, if you stop managing it, it'll stop generating income. Just because you purchased a house, you instantly won't find tenants. If you don't take care of it, it might even turn into a liability. The idea that you create an asset and literally do nothing is just nonsense. Even if you build a successful business, you'll have competitors who will try to take you down every single day. So forget the idea of retiring one day. Of course, you can automate some of your duties, decrease your working hours, but in general, this game never ends as long as you're living. And a clear example is the world's richest people who continue to work even if they don't have to. Number 4. Money won't solve your insecurities. We all have insecurities, and a lot of times we buy that expensive car, or move to a bigger house, or buy a newer phone because we want to be accepted or admired by society. That expensive car will make you feel good for a week or two, but then it'll become normal. But your insecurity won't go away. so you'd want a better and more expensive car. It's a never-ending cycle that people who make a lot of money get sucked into. If it's acceptance you're seeking, then learn how to better manage your emotions. The truth is that your insecurities will drain your bank account, but they'll still be there once it hits zero. Improve your social skills, learn how to boost your confidence, and there are better ways to do that rather than buying expensive cars or the latest iPhone model. Number 5. Don't let anyone know that you have money. People love to brag. People love to brag about how much money they make. At the end of the day, in the age of capitalism, that's what defines your social status. At least that's how most people think. But the problem is that money's like a magnet. Suddenly people will be nice to you. Everyone wants a piece of it. Of course, it'll make you feel good and respected, but that'll come at a price that's really not worth it. And if they won't be able to get it nicely, they'll sue you and get it the hard way. That's the reality we live in. Even if you make $1 million a year, don't let anyone know. Stay humble, don't brag about it, and keep making more. Number 6. The greatest wealth transfers happen during crises. When the economy crashed in 2008, the unemployment rate skyrocketed because the companies couldn't keep paying the bills. Millions of people became jobless, homeless, and poor. However, some people aggressively began investing and became much wealthier after the crisis because the biggest transfers of wealth take place in crises. If you're ready to grasp the opportunity, you can become an overnight success. Remember Jay Walker, who we talked about at the beginning of the video? He joined the Billionaires Club in under a year and took advantage of the dot-com bubble burst. Although his wealth wasn't sustainable, he still managed to keep hundreds of millions of dollars. Another example is Mark Cuban. They say he's lucky to have become a millionaire because if it wasn't for the 1998 financial crisis, he wouldn't be one. So instead of looking at financial crises as a hoax created by the government or the 1% to rip off the poor, take advantage of it as they do. Understand how the system works, study the past crises to understand how and why they start, and be ready to be on the receiving end when the next one takes place. Number 7. As you get older, your expenses will grow. Do you realize that every single year, one way or another, you spend more and more? $100 was a lot of money back when you were a teen. Now it barely covers your gas bill. And as you get older, your expenses will just keep increasing. That's the nature of our lives, especially if you start a family. Most people don't bother themselves about the future because they're making a decent amount of money today. But when their expenses exceed their income, they start complaining that they don't make enough to invest. So if you don't make sure that your income is increasing every year, soon you'll trap yourself in a paycheck-to-paycheck cycle that will keep you poor for the rest of your life. And that's why you have to take the next rule extremely seriously. Number 8. Wealth accumulates over time. As you can't grow a tree overnight, you can't grow wealth overnight. Remember, the earlier you invest, the better. With the power of compounding, you can become rich with even $100. It's no wonder why the world's greatest investors started investing at the age of 11. What were you doing when you were 11? Here's a fun fact. You can make your grandchild a millionaire just by investing $1,160, which is equal to the price of a new smartphone. Because in 100 years, without a single additional investment, it'll grow to over $1 million. You probably won't live till then, but your grandchildren will be thankful. Let's say they won't be greedy and will keep it for their grandson for another 100 years. It'll grow to almost $1 billion. Of course, it's pointless to wait that long, but the earlier you start, the faster you'll reach a position where you'll be making enough to not worry about your bills again. It took Warren Buffett 55 years to make his first billion, and just 3 years to make his second billion. In fact, he made 98% of his fortune after his 55th birthday. So these are the 8 most important rules of money that you should keep in mind if you want to get financially free. Thanks for watching, and until the next one.